So, firstly, I suppose I'll introduce myself. My name is Javi Pilato. I'm with the Hollywood Times.
Hello, I'm Catherine Waller. I'm the writer and actor and producer of The Creeps.
So, now for the first question is what the heck is the Creeps for those of the people that haven't even seen what this is?
Yes. Okay, The Creeps is an interactive solo show currently off Broadway at Playhouse 46. And it is a psychological, I like to call it a psychological freak show in a way, but don't let that scare you. It's shockingly funny. It's a show where a lot of the storytelling happens because of the audience interaction. It's semi-improvised. There's still a narrative, still totally a narrative throughout the piece that I drive, and I play all the characters, but I don't change costumes. So all of it it's like this transformational, chameleonic performance in the round, like a crazy circus, and it's a lot of fun. And it's never the same show twice.
That's wonderful. You put the word transformational in there, and I want you to go deeper into that. What exactly do you mean by transformational? How exactly does this become transformational for the audience? And also go into a bit more of the audience interacting with the actual show, because that's very interesting.
Sure. So it's transformational on a few levels. On the first level, it's transformational in that the whole reason why there's almost no set and no costume, and I just came from a show, so my hair is just like pulled back in a ponytail the whole time. The whole reason why that is because uh, I, as the actor, will transform in front of the audience's eyes. And people have even said, like, if I didn't know that it was a solo show, actually, one woman said, I actually thought that there was another actor on stage with you at one point because I play like really, really distinct, really, really different characters. And one of them is a old man who's blind, and she thought that it was a different actor, but it was me. And so the whole game of it is that I will transform in front of people's eyes, and I know that I will do that without the help of costume. And so that's one reason, which makes the show really interesting. And then the other reason is it's transformational. It's a transformational experience for the audience because it is psychological and there are so many layers to the show that I actually ask in the show, I say in character to people, I say, you have to pay attention, like right at the top of the show. I say, you have to pay attention because the devil's in the details. Like the audience actually has to be participatory and really thinking to connect the dots of the show, essentially. And and so it's transformational for the audience because they'll leave the theater thinking a lot about a lot of different themes about life and about struggle and about the ups and downs of life and the randomness that can occur in life. Sometimes intense, awful things can happen, and the audience is really asked to kind of put themselves in that thought space of like, or that headspace of there are all these things that happen in life, and they get like a little opening into these characters who have had these things happen in their lives, and the audience is essentially kind of present to like, oh, there are other people that have really dealt with things, and reflecting on the times that the audience have really dealt with things, and it creates this empathy that's really special. And so, and I'm sure, and I don't necessarily ask this of the audience because I know that we're all human beings that have had many things happen in our lives. We've had loss, we've had grief, we've had miracles. There's so many things that each of us have experienced. And what I think it does as well is have people reflect on those things within them and really understand the likeness within all of us, even those more on the fringes of society. And so,
Mm.
so it's transformational in that way, where like they're kind of left usually with their mouth agape a little bit. And like they kind of like like my house manager who at the theater will tell me when they leave the theater and they're kind of like, back into real life a little bit, and they're like, oh wow, like, oh right, okay, oh yeah, okay, we just left this crazy thing that I'll keep thinking about for weeks. So it's transformational in that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm certainly noticing this spark that you leave the audience members with that not only is transformational during the process, but after the process as they start sort of slowly integrate back into normal life. And I was wondering what exactly you think of how that affects how that will stack into society and how that will transform on a more bigger level, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I found that, um, we're all human beings with busy lives and all sorts of all different values, all different things that we really care about. And I think that the thing that we all have in common is that there are so many things actually that we have in common, even though we might have totally different opinions, we might have completely different political views, we might have different religions, sexual orientations, gender identities. There's so many things that differ us, and yet we all really have um, the same things that every human has, which is brain patterns, you know, um, emotionality, feeling. Like these are all the things that we actually all have, and so in this really interesting way, I think part of what I found the interesting part or the magic of the show is that I'm having people engage with these, and they're called creeps for a reason. They look creepy. They look macabre. They kind of look like they're quite disarming. Um, However, the more that the audience talks to them and the more I speak to them, the more the initial judgment that an audience might have of that person starts to diminish the moment that the story starts to come out, and the character's story starts to come out. And I think that's really where I find that no matter who the audience is, and no matter what their values are, or no matter what they care about, that is the thing that unites us. And so that's what I think is happening because the audience have told me when I meet them afterwards, like, I'm going to be thinking about this for so many weeks, and I'm going to tell people about it, because it's almost the promise of the show, which is that connection that's kind of palpable, really impacts them. And so I think that's the thing that will continue to be shared, which is my hope for the show. That's my intention, is to create this kind of global impact, I suppose.
Certainly. It's a sort of
Yeah.
like training and empathy and active listening and connection.
And
And
just to go off that too, it's like a Trojan horse, because in a way it's like, oh, this weird solo show off Broadway, which is actually funny. Like, it's actually disarmingly funny, because the characters are really the characters are funny. They're so disarming, right? And so
yes,
it's very light and dark. And so, but yeah, I find it like a Trojan horse. Like, I don't think that people expect to feel that kind of empathy. When they go in, they think it's going to be something different. But I trick them.
yes,
Yes.
yes. So you talk about expectation, and this is a question for those that a platform for you to talk to those who haven't actually watched the show. What are some during, and some post expectations you want the audience to have, if any expectation at all?
Mm-mm. I think they should expect to engage. You don't have to. An audience doesn't have to. the show will happen anyway. And it is very interesting and funny, where like the amount that that it's flexible, because some people are so into it. Some people are like chat chat chat, like really really engaged. Some
That'd be
people are
me.
just wanting to observe and see it, and that's totally fine. I think definitely though the expectation beforehand is like just know that that's going to happen. Know that like um, and know that it will be a totally different experience if they come back, because it will just depend on whatever's happening with the audience that night, right? So definitely expect that. Expect to be a bit shocked. Expect to be expect that like there's some dark material, and I don't talk about that. I don't talk about it really overtly, because I think that shuts people off, and because it's already quite confronting considering I'm engaging with the audience. So like I don't ever want to like I don't want people to like turn off and go, "Oh, I can't be with this." So just know like it's some dark material, right? Um However, I bring the comedy so that people can still engage. Okay. So know that, and then know that there'll be a bar opening. You can have a drink.
As long as you're over 21.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what about the people that I don't know, would there even be anyone that you don't think should come because it might be a bit too macabre and too dark for some people?
Yeah, I think well, I hope that because of the humanity aspect, I hope that people will still feel and connect to it. But I think if you're looking for, I think young people, I mean, I say definitely nobody before under the age of 14. It's just not appropriate. Um, uh, but I think as long as you're like okay to think, like if you want to, like
Yeah.
it is a thinking piece, because it's not a spectacle. It's not like other Broadway shows, which are awesome. And if
Mhm.
you want that, like if you want that big amazing musical, you know go see that. That's all. I love those things too. But I think just for the expectation that like that isn't it. However, if you engage with it and you're ready to kind of engage in this conversation, whether or not you talk, like if you're just ready to go, okay, actually, like this is going to be about this is about like some real things in life, you know, like
Mm.
like real things that happen to real people, and if you're game for that, then you'll be okay. You'll enjoy it. Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. That's definitely a lot, and I certainly like the emphasis on the distinction between thinking and just sitting there and watching. And certainly, what you're saying is you have to engage with the material, and that has to be done with a sort of open mind and a sort of empathy and a sort of recognition of humanity. And you
Mm.
talk about a sort of creepiness and that initial judgment. And I was wondering, what do you think exactly makes the characters macabre or creepy to the audience?
Their physicality would be it. Their physicality and their voice. There's one of the characters you meet is an older man, and I know he's the second character that the audience will meet. And what I love about him is he probably presents the most creepy, like the most grotesque, because he's in this really low crouch, and he kind of he like talks like this, and he's blind, so I have my eyes closed the whole time, and I do that. I know that is intentional, because soon, very soon, everyone is going to fall in love with him because he is actually the kindest and the most generous out of everyone, and has a pure heart, a absolutely pure heart, and is someone that is kind of probably just misunderstood, misunderstood because of how he looks. And so that's an example. There's another character. Her name is Stumpy. I call her Stumpy because she and it's very macabre because there's this mysterious doctor character who is done surgeries on her, and she proudly says, "My name's Stumpy because I've got no arms or legs." Well, she says that sometimes, depending on the audience. And that's very macabre because it's both like dark, it's like very dark comedy, but it's related to the piece. It's related to the villain, I suppose, in the piece. Yeah, and so it's definitely macabre because of that. It's disarming, like I said, and it's not pretty. Like it's kind of grotesque, and it's clown. I've been like a trained clown, and so that's part of what clown is especially grotesque clown is which is called bouffon, is that it is dark. It's kind of odd. However, it's often quite comedic in its darkness.
Certainly. It sounds a bit Jungian to me. Like
What, sorry?
taking it sounds a bit Jungian, Carl Jungian, to reference psychology, of like taking the dark sides of our nature that we just suppress, and
Yes.
then bringing them up, and it's and saying, "Oh, yeah, this isn't so bad."
And
Is
absolutely, that's absolutely it. Like, I've never even heard. I'm going to look that up because that's exactly. I haven't studied in psychology, but like that's 100% it. Is shining a light on those dark aspects of all of us, and we, a lot of people, we know how to present in society so that we don't cause harm. That's important. That's absolutely important. But I think it's very interesting that a lot of us have those, and they manifest in different ways. They manifest in our own guilt or regret about something. They manifest in our own stories about ourselves, whether we're worth it, or like, or we made some mistake in the past and that's been weighing on us, or we're afraid to take a certain action because of something in the past. So it kind of manifests in various levels for various people. However, I found that, yeah, if we expose that to light a little bit, we can find, like, yeah, maybe it isn't so scary, or maybe it's okay that we all have that in us, you know.
Yeah, it's a little unintentional psychotherapy. Like, rather than a one-on-one, it's just everyone that
Yes,
comes.
yes, exactly.
This shock factor. I feel like it's a bit like you're taking these characters that you have in yourself, and you're sort of like punching the audience to sort of like disrupt them in a sort of way.
Hmm. Yes, well, yes, it is. I use the word disarming because people have used that, reviewers have used that, and I think that's a
Mm.
pretty good word because it is like a disruption. It's a disruption from the status quo. It's a disruption from the status quo of a lot of theater, and or at least commercial theater, right? And the disruption really is it's kind of, I like to say, like, I don't know, it kind of like pierces through like politeness in a way.
Mm.
I don't know if that's the right word because I'm, because
S-
I still honor that there's an audience. Like I'm not what's the word? I'm not doing this for like a selfishness sake. Like like I know that I really respect my audience. Like 100%, I respect my audience. But I think that the storytelling element is the thing that kind of, yeah, it pierces through what people are used to, maybe, or like what people might expect where they are more passive. So it pierces through that expectation, and then it really becomes this kind of co-creation together, I suppose. And there are definitely moments of like the script that are really shocking, inside of the more macabre moments, especially because like the little girl Stumpy, like, you know, you've seen kids, you've seen little feisty kids who don't have, they don't have a filter, do they? Like they can say whatever they want. They're little kids, like, you know, and it's hilarious, isn't it? Like it's kind of like bizarre when you see a little kid like just go kind of nuts, you know, and cracking up at themselves or like whatever they're doing. So I like use that. Like this little girl will like yell and want attention and, you know, tell jokes to try and get a laugh, and like it's disarming because that's not necessarily like polite in society, you know. But I'm capitalizing on that because she's a little girl, and I know that little girls act that way, like, or little kids, you know, they're like feisty little things, right? And
Certainly, yes.
so that's an example. That's definitely an example.
Yeah, so I notice your use of just amplifying these sort of characters that you have and sort of an understanding of in yourself. And this might be an interesting question for you to answer. What
Okay.
would be like, how do you think the audience can sort of steal that same sort of skill
Mm.
to use in their own life, as it were, to go about things with a with a bit less politeness?
Wow, that's a great question. Let me see. Well, I don't. Yeah, it's oh, that's such an interesting question because you know, we all have to live in a society, like I said, and I am certainly not one to want to go out there and cause harm to anybody, right? But I think I have a handle on that, uh, because I know that we're all the same in many ways, and I think I hope that that's how people are left, maybe being a little bit more open to to the fellows around them, right? To their fellow human. And so I think that that can assist rather than like the moments where, I don't know. And again, I'm not making any judgments. I'm not trying to be on like a high horse here, you know, because I know we're all, because I don't have any attachment to whether like somebody is a little bit more patient with, I don't know, their cab driver, you know, like, you know, I think we all hope to be, don't we? Like we all hope that we can spread some kindness, you know. However, I'm not trying to be on a high horse about it whatsoever. But I think that that's what I hope for the show, is that like it just kind of organically, you know, might have somebody reflect a little bit more about this other person that's near them, you know, and I hope that uh, that creates some more connectedness. And so I think in a way that answers your question, because again, it just maybe isn't this the same status quo that that audience member might have, you know, going out into the world after. They might suddenly just kind of, you know, their blinders might be a little bit wider, you know,
Yeah.
and they might and I don't know. I mean, in terms of politeness, like, or into like a little bit more. Yeah, I think status quo is probably the better, like, best way to put it, right? Like the um,
Disrupting
changing
this.
of, yeah, just kind of an organic reflection, or organic changing of a mind, you know. And I think
Mm,
that's what stories do. You know, they offer, rather maybe not a change. It could be a change, could be. But I think what stories do is they offer another perspective, another possibility, you know, and another possible view of the world and of people around us.
that's wonderful.
Mm.
Yeah. Just to trail back into some lighter questions,
Sure.
some more fun questions. What has stood out to you? What are some moments that have just stood out to you in regards to audience participation with one of the characters.
Yes. There was this great moment where, and this has never happened in the many years that I've developed this show. There's a moment where Stumpy is asking for help. She's being snatched, essentially snatched away, and she's asking for help. And I know that moment presents audience with a, well, should we come help her or shouldn't we? Like what are the rules of this moment? Am I allowed to go help her? I don't know. I know that actually creates that for them, and usually they don't. And I've never expected that they really do. So the next moment happens, like a blackout happens, right? And the next character arrives. But this one time, this woman did. she came on stage to come help me, and I didn't realize until I heard her say, "I'm behind you," and it was awesome. And then the blackout happened, and then she suddenly went, "Uh-oh," and went back to her seat, and I was suddenly in the next character. And the whole part of the show is that essentially that the audience has broken all the rules, and they're very bad at this point. And so, and so then the villain, the kind of more villain character, who has been very manipulative the whole way. Like this is his moment to show his true colors, really. And so suddenly there was this toe to toe between me and the woman who tried to save Stumpy, and all of a sudden, and it's usually like a really dramatic moment, but everybody in the theater started laughing. It was just so funny. It was so awesome that she tried, that she was like, I'm going to go save this little girl. So that was awesome. And then it created this whole other interesting level to the next scene where my character needed to, and I don't mean this in a crass way, but they needed to dominate and control her because she had broken the rules, and I had to then loop it in to the next part of the story, which is essentially the last act, and so it was so funny. I thought it was so awesome. And then that happened again with another audience member. Another woman actually went grabbed her, and then I pulled away because the transition was going to happen. And again, she was like, oh, I tried, It was so funny. It was awesome. It kind of just, it made this whole other drama, a whole other level. So it was really cool. So that definitely stands out.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you how exactly this process, this performance quality was born.
I trained at a conservatory in New Zealand called Toi Whakaari. It's a Māori name, and it's a New Zealand National Conservatory, essentially, is what it translates to. And I had an amazing time. This is 12 years ago I graduated. We had 3 years there, and it was a conservatory training. So it was every day we were acting, we were doing movement, clown work, voice, mask. We had amazing tutors, and one of our movement tutors was a student under a clown teacher or a movement, well, like an acting teacher in France called Jacques Lecoq, and he was the person that famously created this dark form of clown called Buffon. And so my teacher was his student, and so we were so blessed to have him teach us every single day. And I grew up dancing, so I'm a really physical performer anyway, and I feel really comfortable kind of engaging in a character, through physicality, whether it's more on this side, which is very obvious, or it's for screen or something, and it's like it's very subtle. But I've always used physicality as my language, and we had amazing voice teachers, and we had directors and tutors that would visit us from all over the world, including Europe, and we were really blessed. I had a blast at that training, at that school. And then how this was born was, it was really through doing Buffon. We had like a 2 week course doing Buffon, and it was just this kind of whole other subconscious access to creating character. Like it really was like we were like divinely channeling this crazy character that really began because we were the whole part of the chorus. This is so acting. This is like so like drama school, but it's so brilliant. We for the first week of our training in Buffon, before we even like went to Buffon, we were playing in a room like kids. We were literally like pretending we were toddlers, like playing and when you're in that kind of mindset, like a child, anything goes. Like anything goes, and any creativity goes, and like and any rules go. And you know how kids play, they will make a rule and everybody's in, and everybody is like 100% in and so committed to this game, whatever the game is, and they're like so in it and so present. And so we were really trained like that, like we were so this amazing type of play. And then the following year, we were devising solo shows for our graduating year, and the Creeps was born out of that. I right before that, I had traveled to New York for the first time, and was enthralled by the level of performance that I was seeing in these Broadway productions. Like knowing that these actors were at the top of their class, like singing, dancing, and acting at this incredible level, like 3 hours a night, 8 shows a week. That was so inspiring to me as a student, and then I saw Mary Poppins on Broadway, my first Broadway show, and the finale, they were doing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and this crazy thing started to happen where I noticed like they were doing that song, and they were every time you thought the song was going to end and the show was going to end, they essentially like changed key, and they would do the whole chorus again higher and faster. And they're all like sweating, they're red faced. This has been like 3 hours, this show, and they are giving us 100% of their energy. And they keep doing this, and the audience is like catching on. The audience is kind of laughing because they're like, oh, haha, like, oh, they keep tricking us. They keep tricking us that we think the show is going to end, and no, it doesn't. Like they do it again. So we're up on our feet, we're clapping away, we're giving them energy, they're giving us energy. And I'll never forget, this is the genesis of the Creeps right here, which is bonkers to think. But I'll never forget the man that played Bert and one of the chorus members looked at each other just when you think they couldn't sing any higher. And they looked at each other and kind of shook their head as if to say, like, we have to find it in us somehow to finish this show with whatever energy we have left. And they hit this note, and I swear to God, there was this pop of energy, like a tidal wave, hit me in the face. And I was suddenly like, I kind of like shook my head like, whoa, like a cartoon, like, and I was like, what the heck was that? Like, what just happened to me? Like, that was insane. That kind of like transcendence, like something literally like hit me in the face, an energy hit me in the face. It's so crazy. And I was like, what the heck was that? And so I took that back to school, and I did my thesis on that before we went into solos. And what I thought that was the type of like transcendence, the type of chameleonic performer. Like there's like something in us that can emerge, and it's kind of like when you see like how impressive it is to watch an athlete, and you're just enthralled by what they can do. because of the amount of training that they've dedicated to that. And then you think of like marathon runners, say they run and run and run, and then there's like a moment where something releases in them and they feel like they can run forever. And so I was like, oh, I think that's what happened. Like there was something that was able to release in them that hit me, you know? And I've always been inspired by really chameleon actors, people that disappear into characters, you know, like people that are so extraordinary at what they do that you're like, oh my God, I'm watching a whole other person right now. And so that's what I started to create. The Creeps was like a 20-minute piece. And I started to work with all of those ideas and started to get myself into these like odd positions. And as my heart rate would go up, my breath would change. And I started to just kind of improvise and talk. And it was that's kind of where it happened. Like these characters started to emerge, and in a way, like the more deep I got and like the fitter I got and the longer I stayed in the character, the more the character would speak. Like it was the kind of crazy like channeling, you know. And then I started to be like, wow, like, okay, like these are all weird people. Like where could they exist together? Like what is this? Like what is this world where all of them coexist, and why? And then I started to kind of develop the story that way. So it was really character first. And it was like through talking in character that the pieces of the puzzle started to come together. And so I like to say, like, it was really weird. It was like not conscious. Like I did not decide to write a show about this. You know, it really emerged out of all of those pieces coming together. And then the cherry on the top was how alive it became when I was interacting with audience members.
I think the last question perhaps I'll ask is, how can we take that sort of childish, improvisational liveliness, that great release into running, as you put it, into our just day-to-day lives?
Oh, what a great question. I think, yeah, how do we do it? It's a journey. It's a journey to get there. I know that like in my regular life, I mean,
it's all the life.
Yeah, like life, the life when I'm not performing the amount that I'm performing, let's say.
Right.
In between performance. Where I can definitely get in my head, you know, I can like definitely overthink. I definitely can be afraid of things. I can definitely like put my foot in it. I can definitely make mistakes, you know, or like or be embarrassed, or like think I said like a stupid thing, or like whatever, like, you know, there's all those things that are constant in our human brains, right? And
my name is Stumpy.
yeah, exactly. Such a relief, such a relief to like then go and then be, you know, be Stumpy of all people, right? Like it's like it was so present, like so in the moment, and feisty as all hell, and
Yes.
yeah, it's really fun. But how can we do that? I mean, it's a practice for sure. Like I don't pretend to have mastery over it, not on stage, you know. But I think if you're a creative person and you're tapping into that, I think there's an amazing creative source that creative people are, even people who are like, I don't know, creative in their own right, cooking or whatever it is. Like it might not be stage or screen, whatever. We all have a extreme creativity in whatever way it comes out.
The creativity of an engineer, for instance.
100%. Like I don't think I could ever do that. It was amazing. Like it's amazing. Like the creativity of a CFO. Like hats off. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's amazing skill, right? That's amazing skill. Things that I've only just started to, you know, things I've learned for producing, right? But I don't know that I would if I don't, I don't even know what it's like to be a CFO in corporate America. Like, holy moly, like that's amazing. That's amazing. But I think, let's see, in terms of like creativity, in terms of like storytelling, let's say, I could speak to that. Like how we could access that is by practice, like practice doing it, practice creating. I know for myself, in the past, I've definitely had moments where I've like felt blocked or wanted to be immersed in a creative project and thought that I couldn't start because I hadn't, I don't know, I hadn't like been hit by that creative lightning, right? However, I found that like the more I just started, the more it would actually flow. And like, and so there's that, there's getting in class, there's being around your peers. If you're a creative person, you probably, and especially if you've gone through school or if you're in a class or like whatever it is, you probably have an amazing group of peers that if you could just keep getting together and keep bouncing ideas off each other, even if it's just doing a reading, if you want to like get together on Zoom and do a reading or whatever, like I don't know, like any opportunity to tap into that, to tap into the creative force and the written word is, for me at least, like it's like a big relief. Like it's like a big cleansing, it kind of like gets me present to the opportunity that it is rather than being bogged down by when I'm not doing it. And it's easier said than done because like I've definitely been there. Like I'm so grateful to be right smack bang in my season where I'm like living and breathing this. It's amazing. And there's definitely been months when I haven't done that, and just desired to do that, like completely hoped, just completely wanted that. So it's totally easier said than done. But I think the more you can practice and the more you can find, I mean, honestly, and also like, if you're not feeling it, also it's no big deal. If you're not feeling it, no big deal. Go do whatever else that makes you happy.
Right.
Go see a movie or go like play a board game or like whatever. Go out, like drink coffee, go for a walk, go see a friend, travel. Whatever it is. I think I've also done that too, where I've like stressed myself out. Like I needed to accomplish something, but like,
Yeah.
but
You
like
can't
also,
constrict creativity.
yeah, like
It
also
doesn't
like,
like that.
exactly. Like I've actually found that like, that's been a big lesson. Like, oh, okay, well maybe I don't need to force it. Maybe I can just like go relax. And maybe something might like pop into my head or I might like
Yeah.
go for a walk around Manhattan or like, hey, I feel like I'm gonna go travel and see some theater.
You
Like
might
that's
be hit by another supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
exactly exactly. Like don't stress. And again, like it's easier said than done because I've definitely done it. I've like definitely done it.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know if you're a person that reflects, if you're a person that likes to journal, if you're a person that like I don't know has a practice of reflection, right? In whatever form that is. It could be like reflecting from the past few years, whatever. I think in my life I've known over the course of the past 10 years, um, there's been a big lesson in like for me personally in trusting, like, oh, like I really didn't know that this show was going to give me the journey that it's given me. I thought it was nothing. Like I thought it was just like a show at school and that was fun. And then I was going to go like I was going to go to Hollywood and like Hollywood would find me. Like that
You
didn't happen
created
at
your own
all.
Hollywood.
Was that?
You created your own Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah, like I didn't know I was going to be a writer. Like I didn't know I was going to produce this, and but I started to kind of just do it and find that I discovered that I could learn all these skills. I discovered that it really fulfilled me to put pieces of the puzzle together and to make something happen because I was otherwise to be frank, like really frustrated and like really anxious about things not happening when I had this big desire. And so I started to, I don't know, figure out like, oh, okay, wait, I can do this on a super indie scale. But like, okay, yeah, like the work is good, you know, like people like this. Like, oh, this is impacting people in a certain way. I'm really tapped into whatever creative force that inspires me, and I'm testing it like, oh, the product is good. Okay, the product is good. Or like, you know, and that started to give me feedback. Like the more I started to produce, like the more I was like, oh, this is interesting. I like this, you know. And I hope that answers your question. I mean, it's a complicated thing, but
It's
it is a practice, and it is a you know, if you're committed to it, like if you're committed to, and whatever it is you're committed to. Like for me, I have a big ambition. So like for me, it was like I needed to fulfill my ambitions of being a famous actress, of like being that kind of storyteller, you know,
yes.
like, and I had, and unapologetically. And I'm sure there's been many times in my life where people have been like, I don't know, relax,
Rejecting
right?
their
Like,
own
yeah, like,
stuff.
yeah, like I don't know about this, like I don't know, you know, and there can be so much doubt around you. But like I found that, I don't know, I just kept asking myself, like, well, is there anything else I could do with my life? Is there anything else I wanted to do? And the and it was never anything else. Like it was like, sure, I could, but it would be inauthentic, you know, be really
Mm,
inauthentic to who I am. And I know that anything is possible. Many things are possible. Anything is possible. And if I kept that context in my mind, like, well, why
mm,
not? Why not this? You know?
yeah. Certainly finding your voice
Yeah,
is sort of this journey, that authenticity.
100%. 100%.
Well, I think that's a wonderful place to leave off. If there's any last thoughts that you want the audience to know,
Thank you. It's
then
been a blast. Thank you everyone for
thank you.
listening. And please come see the show. I'd love to see you. It runs until November 5th. It'll be a great option for Halloween. You can come in costume. It'll be crazy. It'll be
I
awesome.
bet, yeah.
And yeah, you can go to www.thecreepsoffbroadway.com for all info and tickets. And you can follow me on Instagram at Catherine Waller Official. And you could follow The Creeps on all social media at The Creeps Show. I think TikTok is at The Creeps_show.
Ah,
Yes. But please do follow us and please do come see it. We'd love to see you.
all right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been fun.